Men are ingenious. When it comes to hitting on women, pretty much any woman, they're fairly creative and fairly repetitive.
Yep.
But they catch you off guard sometimes. I mean, you always think the single Muslim guy whose greatest cause is preventing gender mixing wants to get married.
Yeah.
Fast. Especially if he gives off the holy vibe, like, God excites me, not women. This guy never even talks to you, and then bam, he wants to marry you.
Oh.
Sometimes he's in love with you, like you were made for each other since time immemorial.
What?
How does he know? You made eye contact. He'll appear out of nowhere and say, hi, we never met or spoke before, but you have to know we're soulmates and I'd die if I couldn't be with you. I'd like to meet your parents. You usually keep your distance from this guy.
And his mother.
And you harbor a cautious suspicion against those married uncle types who tell you, my dear, you have beautiful eyes. And you're 1/3 his age, and he complains about his wife and kids. He says, I'm not the type of man who would use a woman for a night and just leave her.
Oh, thank you.
Buddy thinks he's got game. Or this woman's an idiot.
Yeah.
Well, then what about the guy who was a player pre-religiosity? And now he's the biggest advocate for polygamy. Sister, it's a man's right.
Right.
And you would be honored by God to let me fulfill this right.
What an honor.
I mean, please, could you just be honest and just say what's between my legs informs my analytical reasoning?
And there's the campus community activist. You know, the one who joins every single youth group and is on the Muslim Students Association board every year.
Right.
He tells his parents, MSA has created for me so many opportunities. And his greatest cause is breaking down those barriers of gender segregation. He says, sisters, we need more female participation. Not all of you at once, 2 of you at a time. And don't worry about the lack of participation from the men. I'll be there to supervise you all.
And kind of along the same lines is the Mactivist. You know the Mactivist. The one who prefaces his statements with, so I just finished reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, and then proceeds with, man, I was so busy last weekend. There was a pro-immigration rights rally, pro-Palestinian rally, animals are our friends, not food, make love, not war protest. And after enumerating his many causes and dismissing the girl, I was like, of course you remember me. We like totally shared a drink in the Belly Dancing bar last weekend.
Of course.
He's like, so when can I pick you up Friday night for for the Human Rights Film Festival? Because clearly his list of credentials max all on its own.
But wait, what about the guy who insists on opening doors and who recites Rumi and Hafiz and writes better than Pablo Neruda? And when the Victoria's Secret models pass, he doesn't see them because he's too busy helping the little old lady across the street or singing and playing Spanish guitar for children. And in between, reading about women's history and creating a project for the upliftment of single mothers and children in poverty, he contemplates God. And he experiments with cooking, and he calls his family to let them know he loves them. Oh, wait, you don't know this guy. Or you're talking about your best friend, Sabrina.
But you definitely never think the white non-Muslim guy in your office or at school is hitting on you.
Never.
Never. Especially after you convince yourself that most of these guys see you as asexual beings. You know, you're all covered in stuff, and they're always enticed by much more enticing bodies.
Yeah.
You think he's harmless, and unless he has a thing for exotic women or some sort of ethnic fetish, you think, whatever, doesn't stand a chance.
Right.
So you let your guard down, and then he says, so, what do you do? How intriguing. I'd like to know more about your research. Or he says, now, don't you think it's unfair in Islam that you can't marry a non-Muslim man like me? When is there going to be a Muslim Protestant Reformation?
What does that mean?
Here's my number. Can I get yours? You think he wants you to call because he wants your library privileges? Or maybe he gets a flat tire? Or he's interested in your friend Jessica? But much more likely, he's another FBI informant.
And just when you think you've met them all, you get the guy who's like everybody's sister.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know the guy who says, sister, think of me as your sister. You casually blow him off every time he asks you out because you think he won't mind.
He's like his sister.
Right. And then you hear on the grapevine that he thinks you don't want to hang out with him because you have different religious beliefs. So you feel guilty. And the next time you see him, you're like, hey, weren't we supposed to hang out? And he's like, yeah, let's get some coffee.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, let's get some coffee. And he's like, or how about that nice Italian restaurant? And you're like, dude, that's like 10 minutes. The cafe's right there. So you meet, he gets you coffee, and then he says, I love to talk about religion. Let's talk about religion. And you're like, religion's great. I love religion. And he's like, are you comfortable meeting me once a week? And you're like, dude, once a freaking week? I'm so busy. And he's like, yeah, I'm really busy too.
Sure.
And he's like, are you comfortable getting to know me and meeting me sometime? And you're like, yeah, sure, whatever floats your boat. You know what? Then it hits you. I think we need to find a new sister for our sister.